Welcome to Off the Roster. It's Dan Riccio here with special guest host Irfaan Gaffar.
Breach, I don't got you. I can't hear you at all. But I will say this. The Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champions. Yes, it was quite, I don't have no idea what you asked me, but it was quite an exciting day here, obviously, in Vancouver. Big Seahawk guy. Like I've told you before, there are 3 teams that I care about in my life. England at, I know you have a take on this, England at any event, soccer internationally, Manchester United, and the Seattle Seahawks. Was very fortunate enough to be in New York when they won their first Super Bowl, and obviously yesterday. So when you refer to Sam Darnold, make sure you say Super Bowl champion before you say his name.
Yeah, Super Bowl champion Sam Darnold. Thanks for taking over there for a moment. Too excited. May have unplugged my mic just as we got started there. As Seahawks are champs, just like we called it on Friday, and maybe an unexpected season for the Seahawks. We will absolutely get into that. So yes, Irfaan Gaffar out of Vancouver, and a big part of our coverage here on the Nation Network, is joining us for today's show with Lindsay and Cabby away. It is Off the Roster, brought to you by our founding partner, Proline. Betting on Proline is now easier than ever with their new app. Download it today and make things interesting. You can obviously join in on the chat. We do appreciate you. All the jokes coming my way, I'm sure, for the chat after that hiccup. But 29-13 is how it ends up for the Seahawks. We are starting with a Super Bowl recap, Irf. And yes, we may both be Seahawks fans. Justin, congrats to Seattle. We hear you. And completely unbiased, but that was as dominant a Super Bowl win as we've seen maybe since the last time the Seahawks won the chip. And the defense was incredible. And what I like about it most, and I think if you're the NFL, and any league probably likes this, it's when the team that is undoubtedly the best team in the league that year ends up winning. That's probably good for your product. And yeah, it was a crazy NFL season, like no Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson was hurt all season. Josh Allen didn't have the surrounding pieces to help him get to a Super Bowl finally, and he also had like 17 turnovers in that game that they lost. So that didn't help. But in the absence of that, there was a new player ready to come to the forefront, and that just happened to be the Seahawks. But they were the best team on both sides of the ball, and they left no shadow of a doubt on that front.
One of the youngest teams in the NFL as well are the Seattle Seahawks. So when you look at it from a point of view of will he be around again, or was it one of those one-off outliers? No, they're going to be around. And I think if you looked at this Super Bowl in all reality, there wasn't a lot of people outside of Seattle or New England that really cared about this Super Bowl. Like you mentioned, no Lamar, no Patrick Mahomes. This was Josh Allen's year until it wasn't. Yeah. And then the Rams probably might have been a bigger draw than the Seahawks on the NFC side, or if it was the Eagles, or if it was the Green Bay Packers or the Chicago Bears. It just wasn't that sexy national matchup. You know who didn't care about it? The Seattle Seahawks. Look, I agree with you. Dominated on both sides of the ball. I don't think Sam Darnold was great in that football game, but he did exactly what they needed to do to win. That defense is absurd. Got to watch them live when the Rams put up 30 on them and thought they were good in that game. So you must have thought, you looked at it and Drake May didn't know what was happening. I mean, Devon Witherspoon had a couple sacks in that game, and he's basically a corner.
Yeah.
So it's the way that Mike Macdonald has come in and I think completely changed the outlook of that roster and that team. Now, I wonder, there was a report out there suggesting that the Seattle Seahawks were going to be put for sale after. What does a Super Bowl win do to the dollar value of that team now and the window of it being wide open? I think the report was like 7-8 billion. Yeah, it might go a little bit higher now.
Might add a few extra shekels in there for Jody Allen, who spoke after the game. And yeah, I mean, they've been rumored to sell for a while now, and this just seems like the perfect opportunity to do it. It's you look at the Pro Line odds for next year's Super Bowl, and the Seahawks and Rams are currently the co-favorite. Now, a team led by Sam Darnold wouldn't have ever expected to be a Super Bowl favorite a year out from the championship, but that's how good the Seahawks were. And as well, Sam Darnold was. Like, for the majority of the season, yes, he led the league in interceptions, but he played like a top 10 quarterback all season long. He had Jackson Smith and Jigba going, and those two ended up being like the best duo in the league or among them. And JSN was arguably the best receiver in the league this year. Clint Kubiak, though, their offensive coordinator, announced after the game last night that he would be going to coach the Las Vegas Raiders. So happy trails to him. That's probably going to go terribly because everything does for the Raiders. But for Sam Darnold, I mean, nobody would have ever expected him to be a Super Bowl winner. Maybe when the Jets drafted him initially, but given the way his career has gone, he was just looked at as a guy, right? And even last year, after everything in Minnesota, nobody looked at Sam Darnold as a guy you can win a Super Bowl with. Now he's done it. Nobody's going to have him in a top 5 QB conversation going into next season, Irf. But how do we view Sam Darnold now after he carried or helped this Seahawks team to a championship?
You view him, one, I said it before, as a Super Bowl champion now. And I know that Flacco was, and people are going to say that, Flacco was built around a great defense. And yeah, Sam Darnold was built around a great defense, but JSN doesn't lead the league in receiving yards if he doesn't have a quarterback that's able to get him the ball. They don't, run the game well. They don't game plan well unless they have a quarterback that they know and they can trust. You look at Sam Darnold. This guy's been this is his 5th team in 8 seasons as a quarterback in the National Football League. After the Jets drafted him 3rd overall, it went absolutely horrible for him, as most things do happen in New York when you play for the Jets. And then beyond that, he goes to Carolina, and then he ends up obviously going to the Super Bowl as a backup in San Francisco. And then he, revives his career in Minnesota, who made the biggest mistake ever by not re-signing him. And he kind of just fell into the Seahawks' lap. The Seahawks parted ways with Geno Smith. They didn't write him back. They didn't want him, all of that stuff. And, it turned out to be the best decision ever. I don't think that Sam Darnold is ever going to be known as an elite quarterback. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be, like you mentioned, in the top 5, maybe 7, 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. He's just not that name. He's not that guy. But for what they needed him to do, 14 wins, Super Bowl champion. I mean, if you're the Seattle Seahawks and you're John Schneider and you're Mike Macdonald, and you look at that team and say, okay, like, we can run this thing back. Like, he had the oblique injury, obviously. He was hurt. He ended up playing and just over 200 yards in the game, was 19 for 38. Like, that's not great quarterbacking if I'm really all things considered. And one touchdown.
He missed some open throws.
Yeah, you missed him. You JSN in the first half. It would have been a 90-yard touchdown or the first quarter, and that would have probably ended the game right there if it wasn't already over. But yeah, I look at it, and I'm a big Sam Darnold fan. Obviously, even last year, watching what he did in Minnesota, and then his playoff demons showed up. Right near the end of the season, he wasn't good, and then you go in that playoff game, and he was absolutely terrible. This one, I think most Seahawks fans said, "Okay, let's wait for Sam Darnold to do something bad." Let's wait for this Sam Darnold experience to actually come to fruition. And you got to hand it to the guy. Like, he went about his business. He was smart. He studied. He knew defenses, and he balled out. So happy for Sam Darnold. And it's going to be interesting because now there's going to be a big target on your back for the Seattle Seahawks, right? Like, every team now, that's their Super Bowl. Can you take down the champs? Can you be the team that beats the Seahawks and goes against this defense and puts up 25 or 30 or whatever it is? So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they keep building around this offense, and if they can, get more offensive linemen to help, block for Sam Darnold. I think that, that window is definitely wide open in Seattle.
Dynasty talk gets thrown around maybe too quickly in the NFL, but they are one of the youngest teams. They've got the 5th most cap space going into the offseason. The Seahawks do. It's lining up pretty well for them to remain highly competitive for the next little while. And this is probably like ahead of schedule, right? Because they had been building towards a new competitive window, and all of a sudden you're already Super Bowl champs. But it all comes through the draft, much like it did in their last title. It came through the draft when they built the Legion of Boom. Now they've built this new group. Like, you look at the last 4 drafts for John Schneider, and you've got Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, Ken Walker, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen in 22. The next draft, 23, they get Witherspoon, JSN, Derek Hall, and Zach Charbonnet, who was injured but has been a big part of this group, Byron Murphy and AJ Barner in the 24 draft. And then this year, Gray Zabel, who's incredible on their offensive line, and Nick Emenwari, who's a candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, talk about getting loaded up in the draft on both sides of the ball. This is how you build a contender in the league. It's not just around a quarterback. And that's maybe one of my biggest takeaways from this year's Super Bowl is maybe today more than in recent years, for sure, it's less of a quarterback league. We've seen offenses have more problems in recent years. All of the top guys had struggles this year for the most part, outside of maybe Josh Allen and Matt Stafford. Now you saw Sam Darnold and Drake May get to a Super Bowl, but the Seahawks definitely have a chance to stay competitive. I would just put the brakes on them being a dynastic team because, again, in 2013, a lot of people were probably saying that, they're just going to keep winning around Russell Wilson for years to come. How'd that go? Yeah, it didn't go well after Malcolm Butler stole that touchdown at the goal line. So
why? They just won the Super Bowl, Dan. Why?
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. People are too quick to say things are going to be dynastic for this Seattle Seahawks team, but they are in a really good spot.
I don't think there's in order to be a dynasty, you have to at least be in the Super Bowl or in NFC championship games and win in order to be considered a dynasty, right? Like the Chicago Blackhawks, when they won 3 cups in 5 years, that was a dynasty. You look at even the Seahawks when they won in 2013 or whatever it was, that wasn't a dynasty. I mean, they had a really good defense for a number of years, and they finally figured out their offense because they got a quarterback. I think you mentioned the quarterback talk. That's interesting.
The Patriots and the Chiefs. Those are the dynasty teams, right? And why are they dynasties? They have Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Yeah,
exactly. Well,
Sam Darnold's good, but he's not that guy.
You mentioned the draft and being good, and it's not a quarterback league. A prime example of that is the Cincinnati Bengals, right? You have one of the best quarterbacks in football, but the rest of his team stinks. Like, they can't block, they can't tackle, they can't do anything. So because of that, you have Joe Burrow, and you've got 2 of the most talented receivers in the NFL, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And what happens? The rest of the team, you just can't do anything because the rest of your team isn't good. But the way that this Seahawks team is built, man, like you mentioned, all those draft picks, and John Schneider, obviously executive of the year, but executive of a decade, maybe even more. You talk about knowing ball and people that knowing ball and this, that, and the other. John Schneider knows ball, man. Like, he made the decision to part ways with Pete Carroll as well. Said it's time to go. Like, that's it. We got to get some new fresh of breath air, or breath of fresh air here in our building. And he took a chance on Mike McDonald, a defensive guy. Obviously, he's the defensive play caller of the team. And for what he went and what he was able to accomplish in just his second year as the head coach of this football team, I don't think anyone can sit here and say that they had that on their bingo card. I sure as hell didn't, and I'm a Seahawk guy. But you look at the way that this team is built, and all those young players, all on rookie deals. Like, this team does have a chance to be good, but I agree with you. Like, pump the brakes on dynasty. They got to win another Super Bowl in the next 2 years. Then you can maybe even start talking about it. But guys get paid. Like, that's the nature of the business now too. Kenneth Walker, right? He's a guy that is going to get paid here at some point, whether that's in Seattle or somewhere else. He's getting his money. So you look at guys, and obviously the big egos come into consideration as well. As much as everyone talks about this team mentality and we against the world, this, that, and the other. Well, when it comes to dollars and cents and taking care of your family for generations, guys are going to go get their money.
And we'll see. Kenneth Walker maybe as good a contract year to throw it up with a Super Bowl MVP going into free agency. Not bad for a running back. We'll see how much teams around the league hate running backs. Although that's changed a little bit with Saquon and some others. I don't know if Ken Walker has that kind of pull right now when it comes to free agency. We'll see how that plays out. On the other side, Drake May is going to be in the eye of the storm for the next little while. He was bad last night, like even the moments where he was upright, which wasn't often, he did miss some open throws really until the game was out of hand in the fourth quarter when he finally started to find it. They had 52 total yards at halftime. It was just a bloodbath on offense for the Patriots. And it pretty much had been all playoff long. Steven Ruiz from the winger had this stat of just how Drake May was basically the worst quarterback to play 3 games in the NFL. Now, some of these guys like Peyton won a chip that year with the Broncos. Flacco also won. Trent Dilfer in 2000, won a title. But Drake May ends up not winning, and he fell a few spots on this list after the fourth quarter, I think. But still, the point is made. He had one of the most he had one of the toughest schedules of any quarterback in the playoffs. He didn't play all that well. He got the job done for the first couple of rounds, but couldn't do that yesterday against the Seahawks. And I would just, anybody that's throwing away their Drake May stock, and I don't just say this because he won a bunch of money for me this year, but Drake May, still a pretty good quarterback, runner up for MVP. They need to fix that offensive line. And they need to get him a proper receiver. Like, all due respect to Stephon Diggs, his best days are behind him. We know that. Hunter Henry is not Gronk, even as much as he would like to try to be at different points. But they need to get Drake May some skill position players that can make plays for him as well. That's what the Seahawks have done with Sam Darnold, and it worked out brilliantly this year. How many explosive plays were they able to make? A lot of them fell on Ken Walker's shoulders last night, but overall this season, they just lived on, they dined on explosive plays. And the Patriots did too during their soft schedule regular season, but they couldn't do that in the playoffs against some of the defenses they were playing. Drake May had a shoulder problem. That probably played a factor. And he was just missing flat out open guys when he did have the opportunities. That's a recipe for disaster in a Super Bowl, but he's going to bounce back. He's too good of a quarterback not to. So I wouldn't be selling my Drake May stock too soon.
No, I agree with you on that. He's just 23 years old too. Like he's young. But when the lights were brightest on the biggest stages, he wasn't good. And I agree with you in a sense where I was telling people before the game, I said, if Stephon Diggs, a guy that comes to the game with no shoes on, and Hunter Henry and Drake May can beat this Seattle team, then Seattle has absolutely no reason to be in the Super Bowl, right? I think that you looked at it from that aspect right there. He needs more weapons. They have some money too. Go pay some guys. Go in free agency and try and get yourself some receivers. Drake May probably has a good enough resume now where you look at it and say, okay, this guy can throw the ball. He had a really good season. Yeah, their schedule was soft, but that's not his fault. I mean, you have to beat your opponent that's in front of you anyway. They could have easily lost games and we wouldn't have had that conversation. Aside from the Jets, every other team is actually an NFL team. So there are teams that they went out there and beat. But I think that for him, in order to be successful, there needs to be more help up front, and there needs to be some more weapons on offense when it comes to the receiver position. Hunter Henry, you're right, is definitely not Gronk. You know who was laughing after that game? Was Tom Brady and Gronk. Watching that game, being like, really? This is what they put out there? This is the New England team that is owned by Robert Kraft, and this is what you put out in a Super Bowl? I don't know. Christian Gonzalez, though, man, that guy is unbelievable on defense. Their defense is good. It will continue
almost single-handedly. Christian Gonzalez.
And it will continue to be. But you got to fix that offense. And I have no doubt in my mind in Mike Vrabel. I'm a big Mike Vrabel guy. He's a hell of a football coach. And I think that they're going to write it. But yeah, I wouldn't write the Patriots off at all.
In the chat on YouTube, some saying that they have liked the halftime show. It's always a big point of discussion. I loved the halftime show from Bad Bunny, even though there was basically not a word of English. I think anybody with that kind of stuff, they were probably watching the other halftime show that was going on. And good luck to you. But it was. I don't know where I would rank it personally. For me, it's going to be hard to top the Eminem, 50 Cent, Snoop, Dre, and Mary J. Blige halftime from a couple of years ago. But like the set design, the people were grass. That was hilarious. The Lady Gaga, Cardi B, there was a bunch of Pedro Pascal was part of the set too. It was just like it was and is now rated as the most watched halftime Super Bowl event ever. So I would say Bad Bunny got the dub on that one. Good week for him with the Grammys, and then just absolutely blowing it out of the park with this halftime show.
That's why Roger Goodell was standing downstairs eagerly awaiting Bad Bunny to get off stage to give him a hug to say thank you. Because that, like you mentioned, like we're not even 24 hours after the fact of the Super Bowl, and it's already the most viewed halftime show ever, and it will be. I think that, people are going to hate it for obvious reasons. I thought it was a vibe, right? Even if you don't understand a word of what he said, he got every celebrity that was at that game to come and basically be on stage with him. Brought Ricky Martin out, obviously Lady Gaga.
Oh my God. Lindsay Dunn somewhere is just like still having a party. Her favorite artist of all time, Ricky Martin.
That's awesome. Yeah, no. And I think that obviously, the political statements were there, and in the way that he went about his show, the people getting married. There's obviously, some other stuff that was going on in that halftime show. But from strictly a standpoint of entertaining, it was entertaining. Obviously, it was. Bad Bunny is the #1 artist in the world right now and has been for quite some time. And not only is he a great artist, he's also a good dude. His residency in Puerto Rico was strictly based on the fact that he only wanted people of his roots to enjoy his shows, right? People traveled across the world just to go to those shows and go see him. Now they're doing that for Taylor Swift as well, and that, and the other. But for him to do it and stay in his country and be true to himself, I think was huge. And look, I think it's a massive dub for the NFL. I think people that think that, it was a stupid halftime show nobody watched, are going to have to give their head a shake, because it just proves that an entire continent watched. More than 1 billion people are going to watch it. And the NFL knew exactly what it was doing, getting Bad Bunny in the house.
It was pretty incredible. And now people can say there's at least one couple that can say they got married at the Super Bowl, which is, I was confused the whole time. Like, are these people actually getting married right now? Is this a real thing? And it turns out that was an actual wedding that happened at the Super Bowl. So the NFL is into its off season, and now our Sundays are freed up to spend more time with family and our partners, I guess.
Yes. Unfortunately, like, what do I do now? You know what the plan is, Dan? The plan is to get good. The plan is to get good at golf on Sundays before football season, or before golf season.
Well, I will say, since moving to Toronto, golf does not look it's in my immediate future, as much as it might be sunny and 15 degrees in Vancouver. I won't. Golf is going to have to wait till spring.
Beauty day yesterday, not a cloud in the sky. Perfect day to go out there and hit some balls.
Yeah, not a cloud in the sky here in Toronto either, but it was -25. All right, so the halftime show, Super Bowl, of course, Seahawks, as mentioned earlier, on Proline right now. You can look ahead to next year's Super Bowl winner. Seahawks are #1 alongside the Rams. Chiefs are not in the top 5, which is maybe something interesting, but also has to do with, of course, maybe a little bit of uncertainty as to when exactly Patrick Mahomes is going to be ready, coming off of his big knee injury. All right. The Raptors yesterday getting the job done. Yes, other sports, including the Milano games, were going on yesterday outside of the Olympics. Raptors 122-104 over Spicy P and the Pacers. Scottie Barnes, another big night, 25, 14, and 6. And really the biggest thing that came out of this game for me is what Darko Rajakovic had to say post-game about Scottie Barnes. And I'm curious, Irf, with you being outside of the Toronto perspective, how you view this quote from Darko Rajakovic. Here it is.
I'll tell you what, Scottie is Defensive Player of the Year. Scottie is an all-star. Scottie is going to be NBA Finals MVP one day. Scottie is going to be MVP of this league one day. And I'm calling that now. You can write down the date when I said that. Okay, so Scottie is not even close where he's going to be when he's 27 and 28. There is so much that he's improving week by week. And the more he's improving, he's making my job easier, you know. And I'm really, really proud of the way he works, and he really thinks how to help the team and how to win the basketball games. That's the only thing that he has on his mind. So really proud of him.
Talk about setting high expectations on Scottie Barnes. He's having an unbelievable year, and he is going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Facts only. I mean, the way things stand right now, and obviously Wemby can't win the award because he's not going to play 65 games. So that plays a factor into it. But he's going to be an NBA Finals MVP. He's going to be MVP of the league. There's not too many power forwards that win that award. And Scottie does a lot. You know, he can be a ball handler. He's scoring more and more. He's great on the glass. He is a winning player, as we've seen with the Raptors this year, and how much he is just all about getting the team more wins. But, you know, to be an MVP, I mean, that's a different class of player. You're talking about getting into the top 5 players in the league, top 7 players in the league. And here in Toronto, we can see how good of a player Scottie Barnes might be. But I don't feel that view is shared around the league or around basketball fans. What's your takeaway from hearing Darko say that?
Well, I mean, it's the head coach of his team hyping up his player. I think we see that a lot around sports, not just in the NBA. Just a quick look at points per game in the NBA, just to have some MVP discussion here. Scottie Barnes is 36th in the league. That means there are 35 guys in the league, former MVPs, really good basketball players, and some that he's probably better than, that are scoring more per game than he does. In order to be an MVP, look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Just strictly do that comparison of how good of a basketball player that guy is. Scottie Barnes, I agree with Darko. Scottie Barnes is young. Scottie Barnes is going to grow. He is going to come into his own. Do I think that he's going to be a finals MVP? No, because I don't think the Raptors can get enough around him to get them there. Do I think the Raptors have a decent shot this year because the East is wide open? Absolutely. Are there other teams that I think that can beat them 4 out of 7 games? 100%. Does Scottie Barnes now probably need to drop 40 a game in those games to win? Yes. Will he do that? I don't think so. And I just think that, you know, it's an interesting conversation to have. And look, I don't think that when Kawhi Leonard was in Toronto, people paid enough attention to the Raptors. Like, I don't think people hopped on that Raptors bandwagon that year outside of Ontario until they beat the 76ers in the playoffs. Until Kawhi hit that shot, I don't think people around the league really looked at the Raptors and were like, yeah, this is the team and that's the guy. And once they started to roll a little bit and kind of get through more playoff victories, and Kawhi was doing exactly what Kawhi, you know, needed to do to earn him that ring, and obviously the second Finals MVP, and people started to pay a little bit more respect. Obviously, Kawhi was the youngest Finals MVP ever. What did he win at 19 when he was with the Spurs?
Yeah.
So it took some time, obviously, for him to get back there. But I think that, you know, pumping the brakes is a thing that it's a term that we've already used a couple of times on this show, on dynasties and on Scottie Barnes. I think the Raptors are a very competitive team. I think Brandon Ingram is an unbelievable basketball player. I've always liked his game. That dude has helped the Toronto Raptors a lot. But again, much like Drake May, you need to surround yourself with winners. Go get a winner in free agency if you can. Go get a guy who's been there, who's got some experience. You know, you look at the Philadelphia 76ers right now, just in comparison. Kyle Lowry doesn't play at all, right? Unless fans chant his name. But he's a guy that's been there. Kind of changes things a little bit for the 76ers. VJ Edgecombe, right? He's a guy that is so young, is being mentored by a guy like Kyle Lowry. Joel Embiid, all of a sudden now he's a little bit healthier and playing a little bit better, but you've got that experience there on that roster. And I think that you need a guy or guys to surround Scottie Barnes with. Obviously, he's a hell of a talent. He's going to be able to do it at some point, but I don't think that this Raptors team is finals bound just yet. Maybe I'll eat my words in the summer, and you
eh,
can have me back on and just be like, Irf, you're an idiot, and here's what you said in February. But I just don't think
yeah.
so.
I don't want to pour cold water on it, but yeah, the Raptors probably aren't getting out of the first round of the NBA playoffs. I just think there's too many holes on the roster. Once you get into a playoff series, it changes the dynamic completely because teams can just hone in on your weaknesses and absolutely exploit them. And we've seen the Raptors really struggle when they get into games against the Knicks, the Celtics, and some of the better teams in the Eastern Conference and across the league. Again, still one win against top 10 teams in the NBA this year. But Scottie's star, his trajectory, I guess we're still trying to figure out where that ceiling is. Coach Darko thinks it's among the best players in the league. I'm still a little bit curious about that. Can Scottie get there? He's definitely putting together an incredible season and is having a breakout year for the Raps. We'll see what happens next for the Raptors. But yeah, yesterday's win against the Pacers, job done, because you should be beating the Pacers every single time out. They kind of walked their way through the first half and then got it done in the second.
I'm just looking at the NBA stats page right now. Okay, so points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, turnovers, three-pointers made, free throws made. He's not in the top 5 in any of them. You know what Scottie Barnes leads the NBA in right now? Fantasy points.
Yeah.
And you know what?
He's got all the blocks and steals you can live for.
And you know what doesn't win you a title? Fantasy points. Like that's what I'm saying, right? It's great to lead the league in fantasy points, but I ain't gonna win you a chip.
It's all right. We get it. Okay. Yeah, you're still waiting to see more from Scottie Barnes. Interesting note from yesterday as well. The NBA announced 3 points. The 3-point contestants for the upcoming All-Star game. I was not expecting to see Damian Lillard as part of the list, as Lillard is coming off a Achilles tendon injury. Will be one of 8 participants in this year's 3-point contest. He's won it twice before. It will be his 6th appearance, but he hasn't played a game yet for the Blazers this year and will not play a game for the Blazers this year. So I'm just kind of curious how he's putting it together. Okay, a 3-point contest is different from playing an actual NBA game, but I don't know if you're hurt, maybe just stay out of the All-Star competition. That's that would be my thought on it, at least.
Well, he called and wanted in. Like that's how bad the NBA All-Star game is, that they're like, what is going to make All-Star weekend this better? A guy had a ruptured Achilles is going to come and save our 3-point competition. It was funny. I was watching the pregame show for the Super Bowl, and they had the NBA on NBC panel on, and then they had Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. So I think it was Maria Taylor asked Donovan Mitchell, yeah, you got Dame coming back. And everyone looked and was like, why? Why? What is the point? Is there not one other healthy shooter in the NBA that can go and be in the 3-point competition? Why is it got to be the guy that's on crutches? And I understand the way that guys come back from injury now. Look at Aaron Rodgers being able to come back from Achilles. How many guys have been able to do it and obviously revive their careers? But, like, don't you want to do that and revive your career? Or you want to revive your career at the NBA All-Star game? Like, here's the thing. If Damian Lillard wins, we all got to shut up. There's nothing that we can say, right? The guy came back and he won the 3-point competition. But, like, what happens if he loses and is terrible? Or, like, God forbid he gets hurt again.
Yeah.
Like, I understand there's not much that happens in that 3-point competition, but it is time. You got to run. And, like, you're shooting, right? There's different movements and stuff like that. I don't know. I just think it's stupid because there's not a healthy guy that is good right now in the NBA that the NBA couldn't pay off to be like, all right, just come and save this competition. Stupid. Just like the dunk competition. Stupid. Yeah.
The dunk contest ain't what it used to be. We all know that. But
that Toronto dunk contest was the last greatest dunk competition with Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine.
Gordon, Gordon and LaVine was unbelievable. Last great dunk contest for sure. And also the coldest weekend in history. But it was like the thing about it that I kind of like is that guys want to go to the All-Star game. Like, I kind of figured this out. I just assume most professional athletes, because you see this in the NHL and having covered it for a while, it's like guys don't really want to go to All-Star weekend. You know, like, I'd rather just have a weekend in Cabo or something, you know, enjoy my bye week around the NHL All-Star game. And yet in the NBA, you know, here in Toronto, we had BI, who was like pretty upset that he's not going to NBA All-Star Weekend, but he might be there with his gal Glorilla, who's going to be in the celebrity game. And now you have Dame being like, yeah, I'm on the couch. I want to play. I want to be in the 3-point contest. So from that perspective, even though it's like the worst All-Star game of the bunch, guys still want to go, and it still somewhat matters to them. Something about it does. So that to me is kind of an interesting point of view on this storyline, but I'm shocked that Dame Lillard is going to be in the 3-point contest, given he's not played a game for the Blazers this year and was not expected to play a game for the Blazers coming into the year with this torn Achilles tendon. So the Milano games have gotten underway here, Irf, and you've got a lot going on with the Milano games here on the Nation Network. Irf is hosting Quest for Golds with Anne-Sophie Bate and Madison Packer, and you can live stream them tomorrow during the Canada-US game here on YouTube, and they'll break down all of it. They're going to be breaking down all the latest news notes and reactions, and then, of course, the live stream for the Canada-US game. Canada did have their first matchup of the tournament. They'll play Czechia today. They won 4-0 in that first game, outshot Switzerland 55-6. What was the takeaway from game one for the Canadian women's team, Irf?
That they had 55 shots and 3 of their 4 goals still came on the power play. You got to score 5. You got to score 5 on 5. You have to score 5 on 5. I think what stood out to me the most is the defending gold medalist. Every player on that roster plays in the PWHL. Obviously, they didn't have a centralization period where they actually had camps leading up to the Olympics. So everyone's kind of there, that feeling out process a little bit. But the U.S. and Canada aren't even close to being on the same page. The U.S. is so far and away such a better team in every aspect. Offense, defense, goalies. They just take care of the puck. They are good. They are fast. They are young. They have veterans that have been there before. And Canada does as well. I mean, here's the thing about Canada when you look at it from this point. They are the defending gold medalists until they aren't. And they sit here and they win their first game and they get 55 shots, and people are still looking at it, including Madison Packer and Anne-Sophie Bate, my analysts are for the show, and said, I'm not entirely sure about Canada. And I just think it's maybe the flash isn't there. Maybe it's not the appeal of the way that they play. They went and took care of business. I mean, it's a shutout at the Olympic Winter Games, like in their first one. But I just think with what we've seen in the small sample size so far from Canada, we're gonna have to wait until tomorrow. I'm pumped for that game. I bet you the US are. I bet you the Americans are. The Canadians are as well. Obviously the live stream, like you mentioned, but that is going to be the test. And obviously the way that this tournament's designed, it's designed for Canada and US to meet in the final if Canada does get there. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one, right? Because they're the champs, and you can't dethrone them until you beat them, and nobody's beat them yet. But we're still sitting here talking about, be like, why are they not good? That's exactly what is going to happen if the men don't come out and destroy their opponents every single game. If Canada beats who they play, Switzerland in its first game, the men. If Canada plays Switzerland and they don't win like 6-7-0. People are going to be like, oh, this team stinks. Why celebrate? You shouldn't be playing with McDavid, this, that, and the other. And I think it's the same for women. The expectation is very, very high because hockey is put on this pedestal that is very, very high in this country. And yeah, I mean, I want obviously both the Canadian teams to do well and win, but there's some major competition.
It's interesting that you mentioned 6-7. Now the chat is just going to absolutely blow up. So thanks for that, Irf. But we'll see how that moves forward.
I don't even know.
Nobody knows.
I almost wore sunglasses on this show. Okay, so just forget about the
6-7. The thing is, like, Canada is like, we knew coming into the tournament that the women were an underdog to the US, especially coming off the rivalry series. But I don't think we realize how much of an underdog they are. Winning 4-0, it's good. You're getting your feet wet here in the tournament and you move forward. You don't have to be at your best right now. You've got to be at your best when you get to the final. And really, in the games against the U.S. Prelim, producer Nick was telling me that Canada hasn't lost a prelim game since 1998. We got to go back to Nagano for the last time Canada lost a prelim game. That may come to an end tomorrow, but even Czechia, the field is stronger because of the strength of the PWHL. Czechia's got one of the better players in the world on their squad. Not saying they're going to beat Canada, but there is more competition in the women's game than there ever has been. But right now, the U.S. is a tier above everybody else until proven otherwise. That rivalry series, it was 24-8, the total score.
It wasn't even a rivalry.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, So the U.S. right now they're in a tier of their own, and Canada's got to prove that they can get to that level. Shouts to Natalie Spooner, friend of the show, was on recently before, just as Team Canada was being announced. And, it's been a hell of a journey for her coming out of the 2022 games. Since then, she's given birth to her son, Rory, had the catastrophic knee injury as well. And so she's had a lot and ends up being the first scorer for Canada in the tournament. So shouts to Natalie Spooner in her quest to get back. A couple other things happening at the games. Canada now up to 2 medals. Megan Oldham, who was born in Newmarket from Parry Sound, was women's slope style ski this morning. She won bronze. So shouts to Megan getting the second medal for Canada. And it was overall a disappointing day too, though. Mixed curling will crash out. No medal for Canada in the mixed curling, and team figure skating fell short of the medals as well. So we'll see what continues to happen as things develop, but more medal opportunities coming throughout the day and the days ahead for Canada. But everybody getting excited yesterday, as the men's teams arrived, loaded with NHL stars. They kick off on Thursday. They got on the ice for the first time yesterday. Canada's practice was closed to the public today, although John Cooper saying that he hasn't changed much. Sidney Crosby named the captain to the surprise of absolutely nobody, and will captain the 4th straight best on best tournament for Canada on the men's side. Here's what line rushes looked like yesterday, from Ryan Rishaug. McDavid, Celebrini, Wilson, McKinnon with Suzuki on his left wing and Marchand on his right, Crosby with Stone and Marner, and then it's Horvat with Hagel and Reinhart on the 4th line. When I first saw it, I was surprised to see Tom Wilson up there with McDavid and Celebrini, but I guess it doesn't hurt to have a bodyguard there with McDavid and Celebrini together, as those two guys are going to do wonders. And Tom Wilson might be the guy that's just putting guys through walls and cleaning up the garbage in the blue paint.
And that's all he has to do. Tom Wilson has to put his stick on the ice and go to the net. And McDavid is going to find you, or Celebrini is going to find you. And I think that position is perfect for Tom Wilson, because I don't think you can really put him anywhere else. Like that second line with Marchand and Suzuki, there's so much skill on that line. No, I'm not saying that there isn't on the top line with McDavid and Celebrini, but Tom Wilson is not the most skilled guy on this roster by any means, but he can still skate and he can still hit people and he can still do things to make life miserable for the other team. And I think that for McDavid, yes, the bodyguard angle of it is going to be there, but I think for this tournament, like Tom Wilson's job is go to the net, bang and crash, and we're going to find you. And that's exactly what I expect to happen on that line. Obviously, Sam Bennett and Seth Jarvis not in the lineup. That doesn't surprise me at all. Stone, Crosby, and Marner, like that's the shutdown. That's their shutdown line. Man, that's the line that's going to go against Eichel, like and the Bash brothers for the Americans. But yeah, I mean, look, we're going to sit here and have debates about it left, right, and center. And if Canada doesn't win, like I said, 5-6, 7-0 in its first game, people are going to be like, oh my God, this guy should have been on the Olympic team. See, I told you. No, I think they knew what they were doing here with this roster. And you look at it from the aspect of it from John Cooper. The guy's coached 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. He's a Stanley Cup winner. He should be coach of the year this year. I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing. People might not say the same for Rick Tocchet, but John Cooper knows exactly what he is doing. And I think it's a perfect position for Tom Wilson to go and be in. And obviously, when you look at Sidney Crosby, who else is going to be the captain of the team? Thomas Harley? Of course it was going to be Crosby. There is nobody. He should have been the C and the 2As. Like, just give everything to him. But you know, the funniest thing for me about the Olympics is, you know, like the U.S. men's basketball team goes into like the U.S. Olympic house, they have that aura. Like, that's LeBron James. Like, that is Steph Curry. That's Kevin Durant. There's a video of the U.S. men's national hockey team going into the American house, and everyone's just like, hi, hey, what's up? The only one that's showing any sort of fun or having any fun is Matthew Tkachuk. He's got the big camcorder out. He's recording his experience. Everyone else is like hidden behind their hoodies and underneath. And I know hockey players don't have this personality and what have you and all that kind of stuff. But like, you're at the Olympics, man. Have some fun. Enjoy it. They're staying in the village, for goodness sake. Like, enjoy the hell out of it. You are probably, like, there are other events at the Olympics, no disrespect to any of them, but the hockey for both the men's and the women's, like those are the biggest stars right there. They get paid the most money. They are the most watched sport, obviously, on a global stage when it comes to the regular season. But it was funny watching Canada arrive at the airport and then watching US kind of go into their US hockey house, and everyone's just like, please don't look at me. I'm sorry. I'm just happy to be here. I just want to go play hockey. Have some fun. You're at the Olympics, man.
It's classic hockey player energy. Taves McCarr, Morrissey Parayko, Doughty Harley, Theodore Sanheim. Those were the D pairs for Canada at practice yesterday. And Doughty Harley, that's the biggest question mark right now. But to further your point, like, there was the picture of Quinn Hughes going around yesterday on Twitter in his USA gear. He looked like a kid in elementary school asking his teacher if he could go to the bathroom. You know, like that was the kind of energy that Quinn Hughes was giving off as he arrived into the Olympics. Both him and Jack Hughes, the two brothers, I don't know. They just looked very childlike in their oversized, heavy Olympic winter gear going into it. And Brady Tkachuk was the one who said, because the NHL players, they have an option to stay in a NHLPA hotel outside of the athletes village. And Brady Tkachuk yesterday was like, no, we're staying in the village. We want the full experience. I'm like, no surprise there from Brady Tkachuk. If you're going to the Olympics, go to the Olympics, enjoy it.
A couple nights on those, you know, IKEA beds, they're going to quickly change and want to go stay at the Four Seasons. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah. Or, you know, the virus that's been going around in the village, right? The women's hockey team, obviously we saw with Finland, and then one Swiss player was sick. As soon as one player gets sick, that's it. Off to the Four Seasons they go, right? But have fun and enjoy it. Like they said on their podcast before, Brady and Matthew, that this was like a dream of a lifetime. And it is. It's the Olympics. Like not many people can go and say that or will have the opportunity to say that in their lifetime. So for Brady Tkachuk and Matthew and the rest of his team wanting to stay there, good for them. I think some of the Canadian players are staying in the village. I wasn't entirely sure if they had changed it yet either, but they might do a couple days here and there. I know that Teddy Bluger, obviously for Latvia, said he might try it out as well. A couple days in the village and then kind of go back to the hotel and you know, stay in the nice ritzy hotel. But yeah, I mean, have some fun, enjoy it. Go watch the other events. As much as you guys are the star and people want to be around you, like support your fellow country men and women at these games and just enjoy the experience. They went early, right? They were there early. They don't play their first games until Thursday. So a couple more days of practice and really to get in it before you have to dial it in. So if I were them, I would just enjoy the hell out of it for a couple days.
The men's tournament starts Wednesday with a couple of games. Canada, just to make an amendment, Canada's first game against Czechia on Thursday, the 12th. Czechia. And their second game is against Switzerland on Friday. You know, right now, I just feel like, you know, looking at these two rosters, seeing some of the injuries, like no Barkov for Finland. Sweden's going to be missing Leo Carlsson, and maybe we didn't expect Leo Carlsson to end up being, you know, Sweden's best centerman at this stage. But, you know, with the way things have gone for Zibanejad and Elias Pettersson and you know, some others, you know, Leo Carlsson has graduated to being the star center that Sweden needs, and he's not at this tournament. They're also missing William Karlsson. So, you know, it just feels like things are lining up that it's the USA and Canada's tournament to lose. And I'm sure for viewership perspective, that's probably what certainly Gary Bettman might be quietly hoping for to get people really buying in. And for the US, you know, I think it's, you know, given the way and you see the Netflix doc on the Miracle on Ice from 1980 still, and you see the way that Americans still have such an affinity for that team that was 46 years ago now.
It's because the only time they did anything good at hockey.
I think I've always said this, and I think it's very obvious. Like, thank you, Captain Obvious. But, for the U.S. to win an Olympic gold with their guys, especially with the era that U.S. hockey has gone into, where, the teams on paper are very similar between the U.S. and Canada, it would be very good for the NHL, to say the least, if the U.S. Were to win Olympic gold. I think that's probably what they quietly hope for at the offices in New York. I would imagine so, at least.
I don't know how to really it's weird to kind of explain this. The U.S. team is stacked. Like, they have a lot of talent on that roster, as does Canada. But I feel like in a one-game winner take all, you look at the Americans. They're going to come in. They're going to be loud. They're going to say all the right things. They're going to try and do all the right things. And Canada will quietly go about its business, led by Sidney Crosby, who's won absolutely everything. A guy like Connor McDavid doesn't talk, and I'm already, crapping on the guys for not having any personality. But I feel like before that overtime in the Four Nations, there were two different dressing rooms, right? You go into Canada, it's that quiet confidence that's like, we're going to win this game. And in the U.S. dressing room, it's like, okay, what do we need to do to win this game? And I think that that's kind of the way that you look at it a little bit with these two teams. And you say, okay, Canada's got that quiet confidence. Like, they've got Sid, they've got guys that have been there, Olympic medals, this and the other. The U.S. is the little brother that is now like, okay, maybe it's our time to play some bully ball here and try and do it. But the older brother still got all that swag. And until they don't, right, they're going to be the dogs, just like the women's national team, right? They're very quiet confidence. So I agree with you. Do I want to see Canada and U.S.? Absolutely. I think the entire world does. And it should make for an entertaining competition, to say the least. But you're right about the other rosters. Elias Pettersson and Mika Zibanejad are having terrible years. So what do they do on Sweden? They put them on the same line. what are they doing?
Hey, two negatives make a positive, right? That's how this works.
So. I feel bad for Ricard Raquel, who has to play with those two anchors right now. But and then you look at the other rosters. Finland's, if they would have had Barkov, I mean, obviously makes such a big difference, but they're going to be a tough team to beat. Czechia is going to be good. I mean, you look at what they did in the World Juniors and obviously how good they are there, but their program is pretty good, led by the guy who might be having the best season of them all, and that's David Pastrnak right now in the NHL.
Yeah,
he's up there near Celebrini should be the MVP of the league in my humble opinion, and Nikita Kucherov. But yeah, I mean, look, we're gonna sit here and talk about every other team because that's what we get paid to do. It's Canada and the U.S. It's going to be Canada and the U.S. and it's Canada and the U.S. and we're gonna be better for it.
The concern over Thomas Harley and Drew Doughty, it's like, it's only going to matter in the games against the U.S. Really, like that's...
Drew has 2 Olympic gold medals. The guy's got Olympic gold medals.
He's
got
like
Stanley Cup rings
now. I mean, it's like
Drew might not be playing well for the Los Angeles Kings. In fact, he is not playing well for the Los Angeles Kings right now. He is going to have quite the tournament for Canada. When he puts on that maple leaf, that dude's going to come and ball. And that's what I love about Drew Doughty, because everyone's going to write him off. Nobody wanted him on the team. And Cooper's like, you're coming because you're Drew Doughty. And he's going to play like he's vintage Drew Doughty. I guarantee it.
All right. So yes, again, the tournament starts Thursday, and we'll get into that. Austin Matthews, captain of the Leafs, captain of the U.S. For this tournament as well. He was the captain at the Four Nations. A little bit surprised it's not Jack Eichel, but c'est la vie. You are one half of the DFO Insiders as well on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel, 10 a.m. Every single Wednesday with you and David Pagnotta. The roster freeze is in place, so nothing's happening imminently here in the NHL, but how busy is that going to make things once they do resume from this Olympic break, Irf?
I think that the guys that are on Cabo right now are enjoying it because they're on that break and they know that there's no chance of them getting traded right now. I think that there are some general manager offices that probably took the weekend off, enjoy Super Bowl weekend, this, that, and the other, but they're getting to work. They can put deals in place. They can make phone calls. They can do everything except actually trade players. I think when the roster freeze is up on February 22nd, in that 10 to 12 or 13 days or whatever it is before the NHL trade deadline, I think you're going to see a flurry of activity. I really do. I think that teams are going to want to get the guys that they've been zoning in on into their buildings. They're going to want to get them playing with their teams. This is obviously a condensed season with the Olympic break that we have here right now. So having guys come in and be with your team and on the roster as soon as possible is going to be paramount. That's why I thought there was going to be some more deals before the roster freeze. And obviously there was only a few. That's just how NHL GMs work. They just don't really care. And owners don't want to pay guys $400K to go sit on a beach for 2 weeks. So that's why I think the February 22nd, that little window or week and a half, you're going to see a lot of activity there. And it's going to be interesting. There are a lot of teams in a lot of really interesting situations right now. And obviously, the Vancouver Canucks are in sell mode. The St. Louis Blues are in sell mode. What are the Leafs?
The Leafs are in sell mode. I mean, I know they won the 3 games before the break here, but from where I sit, it's not going to change anything about how they go about the deadline. What are you hearing?
I was talking to someone that would know what's going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they suggested to me that they think that 4 players would be moved. Who those players are, I have no idea, but he said he expects at least 4 guys probably at some point get moved.
Okay, well, Bobby McMahon. They
wouldn't shock them. Yeah.
UFA Bobby McMahon. Scott Laughton's a UFA as well. OEL, okay, yeah. Stetcher's a UFA.
I think they're going to resign Stetcher.
You think so, eh?
I think that there's going to be a little conversation there. I think that, he's a guy. Look, I mean, Stetcher admits it himself. He's a suitcase. He's played everywhere in the National Hockey League. Yeah. But there might not be anybody that's more of a pro in the NHL than Troy Stetcher. And I think that the Leafs, that guy was front page news when the Leafs picked him up off waivers. A waiver claim. Yeah,
and Troy no disrespect to Troy
Stetcher. I like Troy Stetcher. I've known him a very long time, obviously covered here in Vancouver. Know him off the ice a little bit as well, and I'm so happy for that kid to be where he is right now, and people are actually realizing how much work he puts in and how much time he gives to this game, because he may not be the most talented guy in the world. He's definitely not the biggest guy in the world, but the one thing that guy definitely doesn't lack is heart and love for just playing hockey and being there. And look, what was the game on home ice when he was just going like this in the crowd after that win? When's the last time you saw a Toronto Maple Leaf do that? When?
Not enough. He's trying to get all the folks eating their sushi and drinking their Merlot out of their seats,
It took a guy that is from the best province in Canada to go and fire up the crowd.
All right. This is a Toronto-based show over here, Irf, okay?
You had me on. I'm up at 7 a.m. I'm fired up right now. You had the Seahawks off the Super Bowl win, and
so we'll see what happens with the Leafs, but that's interesting. 4 players could get moved from the Leafs. Obvious a couple of the UFAs, but maybe a little bit more heavy lifting from Brad Treliving's perspective. All right, let's get to our pro line pick of the day here on Off the Roster. Our 416 Pro Line pick. The new Pro Line app is here with the new Pro Line app just in time for Super Bowl. If you think you knew Pro Line, think again. This ain't the old Pro Line. The new Pro Line app is here, and obviously a ton of options post Super Bowl, even some futures on the NFL, and plenty of action tonight. We are looking at the NBA schedule. Obviously, nothing to look at hockey-wise unless you're looking at some of the women's games ongoing in the Milano games. But I'm looking at the Orlando Magic, one of my favorite players to watch in the league. Desmond Bane against the Giannis Antetokounmpo's Milwaukee Bucks. Over 19.5 points for Desmond Bane in tonight's matchup with the Bucks. That's our pick. Lock it in for today's Pro Line pick of the day. A couple of things I wanted to get to here, Irf, before we go. The worst moments of the weekend. 2 of them in the NBA. We'll start with this one. Poor ball guy in the Celtics game. Like, look at this. Most embarrassing moment of your life. What is that, man? Oh, my God. You are never living. You can never show your face at the Celtics barn ever again. Like, I don't know. What was he doing? It's the strangest movement of all time. He's frolicking as he's throwing the ball back.
Yeah, that's like a chest bounce pass dance move kind of thing that's going on there. I have no idea what the guy's trying to do. It's wild. I've seen that.
Nobody knows. I feel bad for him. This is you can never show your face in public again. Sorry. All right, and the next one, this one from an actual NBA player. I don't know what's going on here. Trying to direct the offense, whips it into his boy. This is just, I know the Bulls are a mess and they're in full-on tank mode, and like all these guys just like got together over the last week after the trade deadline. But like, what is this offense? Ivy is just like whipping it fastball into his boy.
What is this guy doing? He's like bringing a plane in here, trying to direct traffic. Yeah, you're right. The Bulls are a mess, but that's a professional athlete that probably gets paid millions of dollars to do the simplest task. Hey, man, pro athletes are just like us.
Sometimes they're just like us. Saw a lot of that at the Waste Management Open over the weekend. Even Scottie Scheffler had some tough moments. So shouts to you, Irf. Thanks for getting up early with us. And relishing in the Seahawks Super Bowl win for us too, specifically.
Let's go, buddy. Anytime.
And I like to see that the studio in Vancouver, where I started doing Off the Roster, has gotten a little bit of an upgrade. That's a nice plant you've got in the background. Also a nice lamp. So it doesn't look so much like a prison anymore.
No, it's not a cell. There's the plant here. The light's great. Watch it. You can turn it off, turn it on. You can change the mood of it in here. Get everything in here. We're getting a big sign too. Apparently, that's just going to say Vancouver. So,
okay.
Just in case you didn't know where I was, you are now.
Yeah. Irf, you're the best. Again, check out Quest for Gold with Irfaan, Gaffar, Anne-Sophie Bate, and Madison Packer. They'll have a live stream tomorrow for the Canada-US game on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel, and also on the DFO Insiders Wednesdays at 10 a.m. during the hockey season with Irf and David Pinota as well. Thank you, brother.
All right, Bo. Anytime. Thank you.
This has been Off the Roster. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Lindsey Dunn will be back for tomorrow's episode. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more Off the Roster content, make sure to like and hype this video and subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel.